you, man. This is actually my first time.
Set it up like right here. You haven't done one yet? I would imagine somebody would have.
I've had people ask, but nobody's ever like followed through. You see how you did it? Just like, should be the other way.
Yeah, see, you could probably spin the thing. Let me see. Spin. Oops. So yeah, this way. Yeah, because this way it can clip into your shirt down the outside. Yeah. So.
Is that okay?
Yes, sir. Looks good. But
right.
yeah, man, it's crazy that, I figured this place is full of podcast people. That I will say that I haven't seen as much podcasts around the arts like this,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
like
I haven't either.
The graffiti culture, the fine art, kind of the what the graffiti culture morphed into in fine art. Like I don't see much on that.
You're right. I mean? Yeah, I mean I've heard random ones here and there. Like I can't name any right now off the top of my head, but randomly I've heard a couple here and there.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's nothing specifically covering those topics. Should we not be drinking on camera, or do you don't care, right?
No, trust me, I've done worse. Yeah, we're about 420 plus episodes in. I've been doing this since 2017.
Holy shit, that's great. That's really good.
And consistency. Yeah, if I'm good at anything, it's just keeping on. But the thing is that, like, growing up in the paint world, it's like I always wanted to bring people that aren't just like bikers or just motorcycle only, but like all the things that surround to help make the bike culture what it is. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And being a painter by trade, it's just natural that you find these amazing artists across the country that you just kind of want to try to get in with, Artists sometimes though are hard to get nailed.
Oh yeah.
They're and I'm kind of pushy sometimes, and it feels like I come on a little too strong.
I didn't get that impression at all from you. But you kind of have to be that way, especially with artists.
Yeah.
You kind of have to. We're in our own head. We're just in our own world.
Yeah, our own place.
Most of the time, I am anyway. Most people I know are just like, on a different planet half the time.
No, it's definitely that way. Just you kind of have a different lens that you see life through, and you operate at a different frequency is the best way I could see it, But yeah, so how does, sitting here now in your, how would you describe this place? Your storefront or your studio? Studio sounds best, right?
Yeah, studio.
How do you like where does paint start for you? Where does art start for you at?
It starts for me, obviously, the pinstriping and the lettering is, has always been my passion, my real passion. If you could take and strip away everything that I'm doing right now currently or have done in the past, that's all I've really focused and cared about is pinstriping, lettering, gold leafing.
Yeah.
So, and I kind of struggle with that, like in the way of like, it's all I care about and I really have the passion for and want to do forever. But it's also at the same time, not the only thing that I want to do forever. Like I want to do so many other things, and I never wanted to be labeled only as a pinstriper or sign painter or the motorcycle painter guy, like I don't like labels. I never have. And I've never made business cards that said SonnyBoy, the pinstriper, or motorcycle painter, or custom painter. I never had a business card ever that said that. It's just I never identified with anything specifically because I think I've always had that intuition as a young kid that I just never liked labels, I just never wanted to be cornered into something. And that goes for everything, music, when we were kids, especially back, I don't know how old you are, but my younger high school or even before that, you know, elementary school days, everything was so segregated, you know, like you're in a hip hop, you're a hip hop kid, or you're in a punk rock, you're, you know, categorized as a punk rock kid, you know, nothing was meshed quite yet, I feel like. So, and I like both, you know, I've always liked the punk rock shit, I always liked the hip hop shit, I always liked classic rock, blues, and like I just felt like I never fit into one box for that matter.
100%. That's how it was. I mean, I'm 42, so my high school, I think I was just talking about this either earlier today, but like you kind of like, I went to pretty, not a rough school, but like I was a minority, right? So basically it's like if you were one of the kids that loved Metallica and Nine Inch Nails, you were a very, very small group. And then the rest of it was like hip hop, you know. I'm from somewhat of the South, so we have all the, you know, No Limit and all that kind of stuff in. You know? But it's like growing up, I felt very, you know, confined into like what I was freely able to look into or explore. Public, like I couldn't go tell my friends, dude, you see this new band, Korn? You know, it's badass. You know, like, you would feel kind of a little awkward about that. You know.
Yeah, I remember those days. But yeah, I just always felt like the outlier in everything growing up, and I've always had a very old soul, I guess you could say. Like I was always into old shit, like old music, blues. You know, like I always just gravitated to anything old. You know. Harleys, you know, and that's what got me into pinstriping. It's such an old art form, you know, and just like something that's so niche and just like nobody really, you know, kids my age weren't really thinking about who Von Dutch was or what, you know, unless you were raised around that environment as a kid. But I just always was gravitated, you know, towards anything old, anything very unique, everything that had some kind of like real kind of soul to it, you know, like, and that's why I've always had a deep passion and understanding of blues music, you know, that's always still to this day. Like, out of all the shit that I still listen to, like from my youth and the new stuff that's out now that I like, I still will put on like Lightning Hopkins in the car when I'm taking my daughter to school, or like Muddy Waters and stuff like that. It just still really inspires me, and I feel really connected to that type of stuff. And in regards to art, I feel the same way too. Like I still love pinstriping, lettering, motorcycle stuff as much as I did when I was 5 years old, you know. Like I love all that shit. Like it just still satisfies me to look at, to read about, to see other people carrying on the craft. So to circle back to your question, I think that's what's always really mattered to me. You know? Yeah.
Did you say that like you were around body shops? You didn't necessarily grow up in it, but basically was there family stuff that was involved in that?
Yeah. So my youth I was very much steeped in motorcycle culture, car culture. My grandfather, you know, he had a ton of old cars, and my dad, you know, he had a few old cars, and mostly motorcycles was his thing. But anything that my dad had, you know, my dad was a teamster for a long time in the movie industry. So like he would buy, you know, brand new Chevy dually, you know, what do you call those? The crew cab dualies, you know, and he would buy the like big stake bed trucks, and he kind of had like a little side small business of like having utility vehicles that he would rent out to the studio business. But like everything that he touched had to be custom, you know, whether it was a work vehicle, like the ones he was buying, they're all like nicely painted, kind of tricked out a little, all blacked out, you know what I mean? Like, so like everything my grandfather and my dad ever owned or, you know, had in their possession was customized, you know? motorcycles also. So I grew up knowing how to paint because I had to. I had no choice, really. I think all my brothers went through the same shit that I had to go through. You know, like, hey, get over here, sand this fender, you know? We didn't have normal, I guess, weekends like most other, maybe other families did back in those days, but
there was in the like late 80s and 90s the conversion shops that were doing like the conversion vans and the paint jobs and a lot of them on the dually trucks. You had these like pretty gnarly fade jobs and stuff. So is that kind of the stuff they were into?
Not so much crazy paint jobs, but they're just really nice looking. You know, like polished rims, like super clean paint jobs, billet front grills, and you know what I mean, like just really nicely done. You know, and so that's what got me into painting was, you know, the Chevy truck that's in the parking lot in the back was my grandfather's, and that's my earliest memory of helping prep sand, helping him spray it in the driveway at home at my dad's house. You know, those are my earliest memories of like learning what wet sanding is, you know, polishing with a buffing machine and all that shit. Like I learned all that on that truck that's in the parking lot, you know what I mean? So I kind of had to do it because it's just like what we did, you know, as like a chore or like just helping around the house and stuff like that. But what really grabbed me was pinstriping and seeing that go down with my mentor. I call him my mentor now, but back when I was a kid, you know, I think when I met Dennis, his name is Dennis Jones, I was probably maybe around 11 or 12. I can't remember specifically, but that was like my earliest memory of watching him paint. My dad had bought like a brand new, it wasn't a brand new, but it was fairly new Peterbilt truck, like a big rig. And he needed logos put on the doors for his company, for his studio rental company. And he, you know, hired Dennis to draw the logo and design it and then paint it, airbrush it, and hand letter it on both sides of the cab. And that was just one of those regular weekends, like, you know, go with my dad to see Dennis, and my dad drops me off there, you know, hey, polish the wheels, sit here and polish the wheels, because they're really nice aluminum wheels on this big ass Peterbilt. I'm gonna go run some errands, I'll be back, you know. He just left me there with my brother polishing wheels all day. And while I was there, I was just watching Dennis, his whole process of like using a pounce machine, making the pattern. He showed, I remember asking him, how'd you draw that? Like where did you start? You know, like he had like a regular like little notepad that he just sketched the idea on. And he showed me the sketch. I remember him showing me like the pouncing and all that. And I watched him letter with the quill, you know, the name. And then he brought out the airbrush machine. He was like doing little highlights and accents around the logo. And because I was there like all day, I just watched this pretty much the whole process happen right before me. And my brother, you know, he was there too, but I don't think he really gave a shit. But for me, it was like my brain was just like being like, I don't know, man, just fucking, you know, just like I think we all have those, you know, moments where something really just grabs us and inspires us to be like, whoa, I want to do that, you know, whether it's somebody that's really good at basketball or skateboarding, you're just like, fuck, that dude's fucking amazing.
That's exactly, I mean, back in the day, you didn't really see these kind of things portrayed through, we didn't have social media. So, and it wasn't something that was super prevalent in magazines. And if it was, you had to look for it.
That's the thing. And I think I was meant to be there at that moment, you know. I think, I believe, you know, shit like that happens for a reason, you know. And whether you're cognizant of it and aware of what's happening around you, it's up to you, you know. You just got to catch these things, you know, that inspire you. But I think at an early age, I was there for a reason, and I found my passion right then that day, you know, and I'll never forget that day. It's like still very vivid in my memory, and I think about it all the time. And, you know, that's what launched me into like seeking more about it, you know, like showing up to shows and stuff.
What was the process from there to like pick up your first paintbrush? Was it Dennis that started like, hey, here's your brush, or
that's why I say like I call him my mentor now, but like back in those days, like as I got into high school, you know, we would go back to him a lot because like he was the only guy around that was really fucking good at pinstriping. There was a couple other guys that I think my dad knew about or I knew of, but he was the fucking man because he was like really fucking good. And so like in my high school years, I remember asking him if I can apprentice with him, you know, and he was very guarded and would just say a little kind of like rude things, you know, just very gatekeeping type of attitude, you know, like you don't want to do this shit, you know, like no. Or he would tell me because he knew I wanted to custom paint and build motorcycles and stuff with my dad and stuff. And he would always tell me, you can't do both. He's like, you can't build bikes and pinstripe and custom paint. He's like, you do one or the other, you know, type of thing. So like, he would say things to me that would just kind of discourage me and kind of make me resent him a little bit in the early days. But I guess that's just that generation, you know, where he comes from, you know. I'm sure people treated him the same way when he was starting out, you know, because I remember him telling me stories of when he was a kid, he would go to Ed Roth and Tom Kelly's shop and kind of hang around there and just like be nosy and just like, ooh, what are you doing? Like, you know what I mean? I'm sure those guys are probably the same to him, you know.
You know, just, you know, because like I said, I got to live a little like the very ass end of what it was like to like have to print all your stuff and put it in a folder, then go walk up to people and say, hey, this is the stuff that I can do it for you, you know.
Portfolio.
And when you're a guy like a striper and you kind of rely on all these different little jobs every day, I mean, whether it's a dealership, running lines,
his livelihood,
it's like,
I totally, like I said, I resented him a few times, like in those early days, but I don't know, like it didn't deter me from going back to him or talking to him. Like I knew there was some value there, you know, and seeing him and just being in his shop and just, it's weird how you have those intuitions when you're young like that, you know, you just know like I should be here. Like I hear and read about shit about, you know, musicians and stuff that feel like they found something, like
they feel drawn to it,
even though it's fucking dangerous or something, you know, like these, you know, musicians that are drawn into like punk rock scenes and they know they could fucking get their ass kicked or possibly die at a punk rock show, you know. I'm talking about like early 80s days. Type shit, but for some reason they kept fucking going and showing up, you know. And that's how I felt with Dennis. Like, even though he was kind of a rude person to me as a kid, I still wanted to go see him and show up and be like, ask him questions and like watch him paint. And you know, there's another instance that I always remember and think about is I was trying to get into like being a painter at shows, like set up, show my portfolio, have a vendor booth, and there's like this like little car show that would happen in Whittier, where I'm from, and it was like the Uptown Whittier car show, and I knew he was like on the committee or something like that helped organize the event. So I hit him up. I was like, "Hey Dennis, how do I get a spot to be a vendor?" He's like, "Oh, what do you want to do there?" You know, and I'm like, "I want to set up and bring some bikes, motorcycles that I painted, and pinstripe. You know, set up in pinstripe." And he's like, "Oh, really?" And he just kind of looked at me real serious. He's like, "You really think that's ethical for you to be there while I'm there?" I'm like, "What?" I was just like, I didn't even know what ethical meant at that moment. I was like, "What is he saying to me?" I was just like kind of taken back by that. I was like, and I thought about it and I realized what he was saying to me. I was like, oh, he doesn't want me there because he doesn't want me taking his business, you know, his spotlight, you know? Yeah. He's the only sheriff in town, you know, type of thing. So I was young. That was like my early 20s. Like I was starting to pinstripe, like get it, the brush and really do it. Yeah. So.
No, I know what you mean. That's kind of, in a similar upbringing on my end, I worked, like I said, I worked in a body shop. Similar thing. It's like, oh, you're all up to sand. You're spending the weekends over here. You know what I mean?
Come over here and help.
And then I mean, for forever, for most of my teens, that was the gig.
Yeah.
And then, lo and behold, I learned a skill. Even if I was still, a low man in the totem pole, I learned a skill that then, whenever some things didn't line up, there was an opportunity that I found to go work at a custom paint shop that just did motorcycles. Mm-hmm. And they needed someone to sand parts, and I did that for my whole childhood. So
there you go.
But like you were saying, you were drawn to it. Mm-hmm. Once I was in there and sanding and watching the airbrush artists and the main guy lay out the graphics and flames, it's like, I was like, man, I'm drawn to this exactly like you're saying. I'm like, I get off work and then I stay. Mm-hmm. And at 21 years old, I'm like, I'm used to going to those jobs where you're like, I can't wait to 10 go home. More minutes. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
And it was weird. I would go there on the weekends and hang out. And it was just like, we didn't have YouTube. Like I said, there was like Airbrush Action Magazine and things like that.
Yeah, I remember that.
But there wasn't, this was a free education that I was actually getting paid to do.
Yeah.
So if I just had to come and sweep the shop on the weekend to watch, man, I was addicted, man. Like 100%. But same mentality too. Yeah. I'm like, we lasted like 6 months together, and I had already kind of like picked up enough to kind of like go a little bit of a direction, and we split ways. And then next thing I'm painting sport bikes and stuff like that, and then we have a little beef, and then I get a little bit better, and he hires me to come back to do a graphics there. And it's like we fight, and then I go away, and then I come back and I have another tier of a job. I worked my way up to from 2004 he hired me as a sander, and in 2007 he hired me as the lead airbrush graphic guy, pinstriper. I was just
skill set just
hungry,
going up.
And I suck, dude, compared to like it's weird looking back at it, but man,
we all sucked in those days. Like I look at shit that I did, I'm like, damn, that was terrible. And that's why I tell these students that come to my class, like, if you're really serious about this, you just got to do it. The key is repetition. Just like doing it over and over. You're gonna suck at it for a really long time, and that goes for anything, really. Whether you're a musician or a tattoo artist or whatever, man, you're gonna suck for a long time. But you'll get those moments of like encouragement by people that see, wow, that's amazing. You did that, cool. Keep going. But it's good to reflect and look at your stuff and be like, oh, okay, this is how far I've come. Look at where I'm at now. Like, and
it's something, like, it's kind of like I understand that process. And like whenever when you first met you a while ago, I was talking about how like striping is like I feel like my weakest skills, but I understand how to get better, and I still have a whole wall of one shot that I've never opened.
Oh, okay.
And I'm just like, I don't want to practice today. And but it is something that like.
Do you think it's like a fear kind of type of thing? Like, I don't want to do that because I'm just.
I don't know what it is. I've been kind of talking about it lately. I've been wanting to really dive into, like, just doing some hand lettering, getting the strokes down, the muscle memory down mainly. You know what I mean? Because I understand that when you break down lettering, striping, it's all compounded strokes, like different strokes to get, this stroke, 1, 2, 3. It's like, I get that. And I've taken classes like back when the airbrush getaways used to go around. I did some of those striping classes. I don't know. I mean, I think I look at the paint side of my business as the job, and not so much the art form. Like, even though I do believe that what I'm doing is art, and I do put a lot into the creativity in it. At the end of the day, it's the like wanting to push the envelope of my skills. Sometimes I lack a little bit of motivation for that. Like I used to talk about the old heads growing up that I felt like, oh man, like you were the baddest, and then you just plateaued. And now, like, as an older dude in this, like, I understand why. Because you get like a good flavor, and it gets to where like you're not as hard on yourself. Trying to be the next best thing or whatever. Like, oh shit, like people love what I do, and I'm pretty good at it.
You have a formula kind of that works.
Exactly,
for you.
And you're kind of scared to get out of that formula.
Yeah.
At least that's where
that's
I feel
my
like
fear.
I've been.
That's my big fear of what I do, and what keeps me on the edge of like, okay, I don't want to stay here too long because I don't want to be that guy that pinstripes helmets really good and everybody's throwing their helmets at me. Hey, do my helmet next, you know? And that was kind of a little bit of my hesitation this last year was because like during COVID and all that stuff, I stopped going to events because I couldn't, my daughter was really young. This place was really new. I couldn't really leave. So, you know, I missed out like on Chopper Fest and the Board Free Show, like the events that I normally do every year. And, you know, kind of getting back into it this year and a little bit of last year, I was like, man, like if I started going to these events, I'm just gonna be pinstriping helmets and I don't want to get too many people thinking like, oh, that's the dude that does helmets at shows. You know what I mean?
Out of the box,
yeah, but it's cool. Like you just got to know how to, what I've told myself now is like, you just got to know how to use that as like an attraction for that event and just, you know, this is what I'm doing here today. But, you know, back in my studio, I'm trying to do this kind of shit. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to fucking paint helmets all day, you know?
Well, I mean, it makes sense at a motorcycle show because the people that do show up on a motorcycle, they don't really have a place to put a skate deck or, you know, a canvas that you whipped up or whatnot. So it's like the helmets, the art they can take home. But maybe at a swap meet, you know, like something like that, Long Beach swap meet or something like that, you could kind of have the one-off pieces there or some pieces in general, you know?
That's where I got my start. Really cut my teeth on going to the swap meets a lot. And just going there every month, pinstriping for people helped a lot, you know. Helped sharpen me and helped to get me comfortable about being in front of people and painting live, you know. When people see me doing it, they're like, oh my God, how do you do that in front of people? All these people watching. I'm like, this is how I started, you know. This is like all I've done, you know.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean on that.
It's a good way to get over that fear of doing shit in front of people, you know. Go to swap meets. I miss that. I miss those days.
Yeah, you know, I was telling you about how I used to airbrush at like lowrider car shows and things like that, and I never really thought much of it growing up. Like, oh, what's it like to do it in front of people? I just, you know, I almost was I was like baiting into that by airbrushing, you know, Lil Wayne or you know Rihanna or some pop star figure that's recognizable, and you know, I just never really thought about like, oh, I guess I was used to having people watch it, but if I had to stripe, like I'm very self-conscious about that, so I'd feel like I would be, oh man, like I don't know if I really want to be watched while I do this. But then again, it's like, I don't know. I mean, it's just a little bit different. You know what I mean? Trying like certain things are easier to do in front of people than others. For me, at least. You know what I mean? Like I love photography. Is like one of my biggest loves as far as like. And you know, whatever, like another outlet for creativity, but I don't like doing it in front of people. I feel very, I get in my head, you know?
Okay.
So
that makes sense.
It's just a weird, it's one of the biggest hurdles that exists within photography for people that are scared to pull out a camera and capture moments, especially when other people are around or of other people.
I could see that. Yeah. Because I feel that way bringing my camera phone out in certain situations. Like, I don't know if we should be doing this right now. But I feel like it's an important moment that I want to capture. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's always a weird one.
You kind of have to, like, I guess, push all that out if you're going to be that kind of person. Just not give a shit about what people think of you.
What I try to do, like to kind of help with this, I'll throw like some AirPods in and I'll go walk around some busier areas of town, and you know, places where no one would recognize me. It's not like in my circles of where I kind of stomp or whatever. Yeah. And just kind of walk around and just take pictures of flowers and fucking walls and you know shadows and light and stuff.
That sounds like fun. I've always kind of wanted to try that, but I've just never got a real camera and like physically made myself do it. Like, but I tend to snap shit on my iPhone, you know, of a flower or something that I really like, or an old sign or something like that.
Well, the thing about, you know, photography is like it's literally just whatever camera you have. Yeah. The thing is like with your phone, and this is a photographer told me this, that kind of made me want to buy my first camera, is he's like, man, you compose really good images with your phone. just get a real camera and take it to the next level.
Yeah.
That's kind of what happened.
Yeah.
You know, it is addicting.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I can imagine. I know a lot of photographers, and I have a lot of respect for people that do it for a living, and like actually put themselves out there and feed themselves off of it.
If you can feed yourself off of it, that's another.
It's amazing, man. Especially in this day and age where everybody seems to think they're a photographer. It's more of, I think for a lot of things though, like things are just more, I guess not accepted, but just like, oh, I can do that. Like, and nobody thinks anything of it.
Well, with social media, the way like Instagram became what it is, it kind of forced people to want to make better content. So the camera was.
So you kind of have to figure it out.
And then the market's very, very muddled and watered down. It's hard to stand out in it, but the way when I first started spending stupid money on this stuff, like it was like, oh yeah, maybe one day it'll pay off, but I try not to put that pressure on me to just enjoy it. And then if it's kind of like we were talking about with the time, one day it'll be 5 years, and then another day it'll be 10 years, and then 20 years, and maybe I'll have a big body of work, and it'll all feel like second nature at that point. And then opportunities might come there where I'm not physically looking for it. But I'm also scared to take money for anything I shoot.
Yeah.
Because I don't want some switch to go off where I look at this as work now.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Changes it.
Yeah. So I'm kind of in my head a lot about it, like trying to manipulate myself.
It's good that you're aware and try to, be conscious of what your intentions are and what you're doing, Yeah.
I do love it. And it would be dope. Every once in a while you hear, you meet a photographer, or you hear about someone that, sold one image and made $80,000, you know, and, when you get to those high end places of selling photography, Apple, for instance, would probably say, okay, we want to buy the rights to that image for 5 years. Here's $80,000. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, shit, that's dope, but that's very far and few between for those opportunities.
Yeah, man. That's cool though, man. That's great that you're doing this. I think people like you are really important to cultures like where we're from, it's just I have respect for people like you and photographers that are documenting shit. And we tend to kind of take it for granted a lot of times. I think people in general, until 20, 30 years down the line, we're like, oh man, look at these photos, look at this podcast, this guy recorded some amazing people that did some amazing shit back,
that's the hope.
20 years ago.
That is the hope.
It will happen. It definitely will. It's like we don't know it in the moment, like what's going on, like where I'm going to end up, or where you're going to end up, or the people you've interviewed so far. Like, it's just, it's unknown, but it's exciting to think like it's all being documented.
What's it like growing up here in LA in such a mecca for creativity and art? And almost every you can't not see it everywhere you look, from the graffiti all over on the south side of town to the architecture and the hills over here to just the amazing graffiti artists and crews that are a part of this area.
Man, it's a fucking blessing. I don't take it for granted at all. Like, I know where I am and where I come from, and I've never. I'll bitch and complain about shit like everybody else does about the parking and this and that or the other, but the culture here is like fucking unbelievable, even more so now than ever. I feel like I don't have any tainted feelings about it at all. Like, I love the fact that everything is one big melting pot now, as far as all these cultures that used to be like subcultures or lowbrow art and all that shit. And like, you go to a Moon Eyes hot rod show here, like the ones they were doing at Irwindale Speedway, and you get everybody from hot rod dude, greaser rockabilly, psychobillies, fucking homies and cholos and gangbangers, and to guys like me who are pinstripe artists, tattooers. It's just a fucking melting pot of like people that are all into the same shit, or somehow a little bit align a little bit in their views of like their cars and the, you know, what, you know, custom, the lifestyle, you know. And for me, being here, growing up here, it's so cool because it's a huge part of who I am, you know. And like when I was a kid, like, man, it was just normal to like have my dad's friends over the house on weekends, or even sometimes throughout the weekdays on their bikes. My dad was kind of like the hub for a while. Like all his friends would come have my dad help fix their bikes and shit and stuff. So it was just normal. And then like, you know, he would have tattoo parties in the garage. Getting tattooed, and like my uncles would come over and get tattooed by some dude that just got out of prison, you know, who was really good at that was kind of my introduction to like seeing like lettering too, you know. It was like watching this, I can't remember his name was Barney or something like that, some like homie dude that my dad knew. I don't know how he knew him, but he would tattoo my brother, and like he was really good at script lettering though. I remember seeing him draw script lettering, you know, and tattoo it on people. It's like, man, that's cool. So yeah, just like, I feel like for myself, like I'm very lucky to have that, you know, and I don't take it for granted because I see beauty in it. And I knew at a young age, being a kid, there is something there, you know, that sparked a lot of inspiration for me, you know. I saw beauty in motorcycles and tattoos and, you know, cars and lowriders and stuff. But yeah, I mean, and then you fast forward like 20, 30 years later, like I feel like, man, like connecting into like other worlds, you know, like as a young adult, like in my early 20s and stuff like that, I started meeting more people and realizing back then, like, oh shit, like for me, motorcycles is like the hub for all these people that I know, you know, like from different worlds, like photographers, graffiti artists, tattooers, it all, and even like the clients that I attract, you know, they could be like a client that, you know, I don't know, that owns an art gallery or a restaurant in downtown, like somehow they find me through motorcycles, or somebody that, you know, referred me, like that works for them, that rides a Harley. You know, it all comes back to motorcycles for me.
This town is very, the city, even whether you're in the film side of the industry or whatever, it just seems very ingrained into the motorcycle world.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, like my dad, like working in the movie industry, like all those Teamster guys, they're all bikers, you know, not all of them, but like a good portion of those dudes are like into Harleys and stuff. And like same thing with my brothers. They do, you know, set construction for movies, and a lot of those dudes ride Harleys, you know. It is very prevalent around here. But it's great, man. Like I love it. I love being here. But also know that like I feel like my time here is I don't know, it's coming to an end at some point soon, you know. I feel like I got to move on and like go somewhere and live. It's just getting so expensive here. I mean, to like really thrive here, it's getting really hard, you know. Versus when I remember growing up, you know, like my dad had, you know, there's like 6 kids and a house, and
he had toys,
motorhomes, Sea-Doos, boats and shit. Like trying to do that nowadays, like having 6 kids in LA and own a house and have all these toys and shit, and it's like fucking almost impossible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
is there something is there a place that you've been eyeing, like a place that seems
I don't
like
know,
you could check
man.
a box or two?
We talk about it amongst ourselves all the time, and just being like up north in San Luis Obispo, I've never been there before, but like just visiting that and seeing outside of LA, it's just so nice and slower pace, you know. It's kind of like it's looking really desirable, you know, to me. And my daughter, she wants to live by the beach really bad, so I feel like I have to give her what she wants.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And you know, going to the beach up there is so easy, dude. You could pull up, find a parking spot, walk to the beach. Yeah, Pismo. I'd never been there before, and just, you know, kind of seeing that, I was like, oh, this is pretty chill. I like it.
It's a vibe over there, man. Like it's cool. It's like it's not quite NorCal, but it's not quite SoCal.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I guess it's the Central Coast.
Yeah, exactly. I liked it a lot, man. I like San Diego area, but I know that's kind of expensive too. But anyway.
I feel like I'd want, if I was to move here, I'd always said that kind of area you just mentioned was always kind of ideal, because you can jump into the city and go, you know, do whatever you need to do and then get out. Or, you know, it's a little bit further, but you can make it to the Bay Area, you know, fairly easily. Yeah. You know, the 101's a more desirable drive or ride up than the F5. So, you know. Yeah,
dude. We've been thinking about that a lot. And that's only been a couple weeks since we went there, but we're just like, damn, that was cool. But yeah, coming back to your question, this city, there's something special about it for sure. And that's, a lot of people want to be here for that reason, to be something, you know. And I feel like almost everybody that you kind of come across when you are living here is, you know, pretty creative, or kind of has some kind of connection or something like that for you to, like, you know, I don't know, do some cool shit with, you know, and just I don't know, man, network and stuff like that. And I think that's probably the biggest problem about living here, is like everybody wants to fucking be here for that reason. It's just like people come here to work.
Everybody's got an angle or something like that.
Everybody's got an angle for sure. Yeah. Especially in this neighborhood. Like, you could see it, you know, the school that my daughter goes to, you could just kind of see these parents talking amongst themselves. You can tell, like, they have an angle, you know, they're trying to get something or do something, or I don't know. It's kind of weird.
I've always, you know, like I said, this is my first time in this Highland Park, right? Is that the name of this kind of community here?
This is Highland Park, yeah.
I haven't really been here much. I haven't spent a lot of time in some of the more direct, adjacent to downtown, like, neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, growing up in Texas, and, you know, you watch movies and you see like Echo Park and, you know, Fast and Furious and all these kind of things like that.
Yeah.
But these different little, not quite boroughs like New York, but just kind of like areas.
Yeah, they're boroughs, you know. Pockets.
Like cruising up through, seeing, you know, the Griffith Park thing. It's like I had never done that before. And it's just like crazy that, you know, these houses are just like fucking huge and on the side of a mountain. And,
over there?
Over there, yeah.
Those are billion-dollar houses probably.
But it's just cool. It's just amazing how it's all kind of intertwined into this like crazy organism of the city. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I feel like this city's too big for its own good.
It's like a bunch of little states.
Yeah, it's how it feels, you know. In this area, Highland Park, you know, everybody talks about, like, all the OG people that live around here. They'll be really quick to tell you, this used to be a really rough neighborhood, man. Like, they don't want to tell the horror stories about people getting shot, and I hear it almost every day that I'm here. And, you know, most of the time I'll just kind of like hear their stories. Yeah, I know, dude. Like, I get it. It was a bad neighborhood. Like, but it's funny. But yeah, it was a bad neighborhood for a long time. It wasn't always that way though. You know, there was a point in time where it was a nice neighborhood before that, and just like anywhere else in LA. And that's kind of what I tell people too. I was like, yeah, you know, I know. I've lived in LA my whole life. Like I know what it's like. Like,
Sorry.
It's so funny.
But you said you grew up in Whittier?
Yeah, I grew up in Whittier.
What's that town like? I've
Whittier
ridden through
is a very suburb. It's LA County, so it's like, you know, it goes from downtown. It goes like Boyle Heights, East LA, Whittier.
Okay.
You know, Pico Rivera.
Yeah.
So it's LA County. It's a very conservative little small town, I guess you could call it. And I say it's conservative in the way that like it was established by like Quakers, and you know, my whole life growing up there, like there would be like bars that would try to open, but they would get shut down.
Yeah.
Like they didn't like a lot of bars.
Yeah.
There used to be like a little like topless bar that opened in Whittier. I remember that didn't last long at all, and like
it's mainly Latino, right?
Yeah.
Because I want to say the guy that does my taxes is that.
It is primarily a lot of Mexican, Latino people, but there's like a good chunk of people that are in like the Friendly Hills area, which is like the hill area of like Uptown Whittier that are wealthy. And if you go to like that area of Uptown Whittier, up in the Friendly Hills area, that's where like the professors and the doctors and the lawyers live. Because there's Whittier College is right nestled in that neighborhood too. So there's a good amount of like, you know, wealthy people that live up in those hills. But yeah, where I grew up though, it's like, primarily Latino Mexicans. Yeah. I say Mexican, but I don't know.
I don't know what I'm supposed to say.
I grew up identifying as Mexican because I don't look brown skin, but my mom is brown skin. My dad has more fair, light skin.
Yeah.
And there's more French blood on my dad's side, like French, Spanish blood.
Okay.
That's where I get my physical appearance from. But like if you saw I met my brothers and my mom, like I don't look like them, like, really. It's so weird. But I was always, and like growing up with two brothers that were brown skin, like I was always called a white boy and picked on. Like, oh yeah, Miklo, from Blood In, Blood Out.
Yeah.
Especially like I did live in Compton for a few years of my youth because my mom's from there.
Yeah.
And when my parents split up, I lived like 3 or 4 years in Compton because like they were going through that whole divorce process, and then my dad ended up buying another house in Whittier and then gave the house that he was living in to my mom so that we could all move back out of Compton. Because we were all kind of huddled in this one house with my godmother, which is like my Nina. We say Nina or Nino in Mexican culture. But yeah, those are fun days. That was a trip. Growing up in the 90s, like especially like that era of like that was like when the Rodney King 92, 93. Yeah. Damn. That was wild. Like I remember when that shit happened, like
my dad making like gang movies and it's like about the neighborhood you live in.
Yeah, I remember like going back to Compton after the riots, like and seeing shit burn down. The liquor store was burned down around the corner from our house and shit, and just like it was real.
That's wild.
But I love that I lived there, and got to experience shit like that and to like, see what it's like and know what it's like to live in that kind of environment, I think that shaped also my youth as well in terms of, growing up in like the whole fucking gangster rap era of like hip hop and like, just hanging out with kids, black kids, Mexican kids in one neighborhood, you don't get that, in Whittier. Like there was like probably like one black kid in my high school in Whittier. It's not very diverse. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Those are very fond memories I had living there because I lived there with two of my older cousins too. Where
Yeah.
one of them was very much in gangs, but the other one was really cool, looked out for us, and it was really cool. Like I felt like those are very memorable times for all of us, really. Like I feel like my siblings feel the same way because we're all there living there at the same time, just like having fun, running the streets and shit. It was cool.
Yeah, I definitely see it can be fun, especially if you have like, you know, people, you're not like alone. Mm-hmm. You know, like if you're a single child.
Like having older cousins that look out for you, that makes a big difference. For sure.
So I was gonna ask you, like when it comes to like the typography, right? So I always get topography and typography a little messed up. So typography, you know, the lettering and stuff like that. Do you feel like it almost like brings a life, how you letter it or how the font kind of gives it a soul?
Yeah.
You know?
For sure. Yeah, definitely. It's a very, it can be easily overlooked by the average person, you know, especially somebody that has like a business and they're just like, I just want a sign on my wall, or they pay somebody to like make a quick little logo, vectored logo for them.
Yeah.
Just the font's just wrong. It's all wrong, you know. I think it makes a huge difference, and I think that's why it is so prevalent in the culture of cars and motorcycles, because it says something about you, know, and what you're trying to showcase on your car or your gas tank, you know. So if you have like really cool script lettering, or if it's gold leafed and engine turned, it's gonna fucking make a big difference, you know, versus just a vinyl decal or something, you know. And I think I saw the value in that really in the early days of me custom painting. I was like, I really knew I had to learn that shit, because I knew there's a lot of value in knowing how to letter really well. And I knew I was good at lettering already. Like, I shouldn't say good already, but like I had a good eye for what it should look like. Even though I couldn't execute it really good quite yet, I knew
the direction.
I knew the direction I needed to go, what it should look like, and what I should strive for. And I knew if I learned it, it would separate me from other painters, you know, because there's a ton of custom painters growing up, and guys who were around my age that were coming up at the same time as me, but and some of them could pinstripe, but they couldn't. Most of them couldn't letter very well, and they would come to me. You know, they would, you know, hey, I did this paint job. Can you letter some shit on there, or gold leaf letter it? You know, I never really had an ego about stuff like that. Like, you know, trying to compete with other people, but I knew like it would have more value or contribute more value to my skill set and what I could offer people, you know. So
they kind of flipped in a little bit just to make sure it's
very good. Okay.
Yeah, just want to
so lettering is such a powerful tool. It's a powerful medium. And what also made me realize it too was in like, I think 2008 or 9, it was when I first had somebody come to me asking me to gold leaf a window for a storefront. And nobody had ever asked me to do shit like that ever before. And I never even thought about doing something like that ever before. Because I never really saw, I don't think obviously Dennis had done that kind of shit, but I never had seen him do gold leaf on a glass storefront window. But it was just something that was like a curveball, you know, like somebody, this guy that I know, who's like a friend of mine now, his name's Jason Schroeder. He's a tattoo artist. And I met him through Matt from Dice Magazine. Do you ever know Matt from Dice?
I haven't met him, but I know of him.
He passed away.
He passed away. Yeah.
But I was really close with Matt, and I remember Matt got his whole sleeve done by Jason, and Jason did all this for me actually. So he's a really good tattooer, and I remember asking Matt, like, "Hey man, who did your fucking sleeve? Dude, that looks so good." He's, oh, my mate Jason, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's cool. And then like not too long after that, like he told me like, hey, remember Jason? Like he was asking about you. Like he wants to know if you could letter his storefront window. I was like, He's like, can you do something like that? I'm like, I don't know. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And so he's like, I'll give him your number. So he passed my number to Jason, talked to Jason. His wife was opening a retail shop in Echo Park. It was a small retail, kind of like this, like just like greeting cards. They made a lot of their own products. It was like stationery stuff, giftable items. It was called Spitfire Girl. And he really wanted his window to be gold leafed and engine turned, you know? And I was like, I remember talking to him on the phone and he's like, yeah, I saw the lettering you did on the Dice van, this and that. I love the gold leaf that you did. Can you do that on my window? I'm like, man, I've always never been a person to say no to like shit or like lead people to think that I can't do something when I feel like I can, you know, even if I've never done it before. So I remember telling him, yeah, you know, let me do a test piece on a small glass panel and see if it works. And see if I could engine turn it backwards so that, you know, it shows up. And I had never seen anybody do that yet. Like, cause like we didn't have information out there. Like there's nothing out there. So
finding glass gilding now is kind of like there's people that teach it.
Yeah, it's it's very reachable and common to look up on Instagram. And shit, so. But anyway, long story short, I did the test piece. It worked out great. I did his storefront window. It said Spitfire Girl and gold leaf letters, outlined and pinstriped. It looked really cool.
How was it painting backwards?
That tripped me out, man.
Yeah.
And that was, and I remember thinking about it, like going into actually doing the window physically. I was like, man, I don't know if I could pull this off. Like, it's gonna be really weird painting backwards, inside out, like, or reverse, I mean. So I kept like kind of fucking overthinking it, but I got through it and it came out great. And
just for the sake of like my own knowledge right now, like, did you use like sizing to get the leaf to stick, or did you use
just sizing? But I didn't add any color to it, so the sizing's transparent, you know, unless you add yellow or gray or gold to it. So you just brush it and let it set, just like you normally would on a regular surface. But that was the moment where I realized, like, oh fuck, like this lettering thing could be bigger outside of the box of gas tanks and cars and you know, stuff like that. So that really opened my eyes. And then from that point on, I wasn't trying to like generate that kind of business, but because that window was in Echo Park, like people saw it. Jason was kind of throwing my name out there, and like people were like, oh shit, I saw that window, can you do my window? And that's when from like 2009 on, like more trickling in, more sign requests. I wasn't trying to be a sign painter, but, and like I said, like nobody was talking about sign painting back in those, I don't know, early 2000s, 2010 era. Like it wasn't really a name or like a,
it was kind of a dying
like a job
art
title or whatever you want to say it is. Yeah.
I mean, the printing, you know, was killing the sign painting business.
Oh yeah, for a long time.
And then, like, I think, you know, you said like 08, 09. I think that's kind of like early days of people wanting to get back into that handmade tactile stuff.
It was the timing was there, for sure. I remember, what was it? What was I gonna say? The Sign Painter movie that came out. Did you ever see that? There's a documentary that came out called Sign Painters. And it's a really good documentary. You could look it up on Vimeo or I don't think it's on YouTube. But that's a great documentary. It's funny because like I have been talking about this documentary recently to my students that come here. Yeah. And then like about a month ago, the guy that made that documentary just stumbled in here one day because he saw my A-frame sign on the sidewalk. Yeah. He's like, hey, who does the sign painting here? I'm like, oh, that's me. He's He's like, yeah, that's great. And we started talking about typography and this and that. And then he's like, yeah, I actually made a documentary about sign painting. I'm like, oh, no way. Is it the sign painting one? He's like, yeah.
Wow.
I'm like, oh shit, dude, that's great. Like,
that's wild.
I love that documentary. It's good. It's really good. He did a really good job interviewing like old sign painters, new up and coming sign painters, and like the wall dog people, the colossal media guys that do the giant murals for advertisements and stuff. Like he interviewed those people. It's really good.
Yeah.
You should watch it.
We have some pretty gnarly, large murals in Dallas.
Yeah.
Some of them, I remember when I first really started trying to discover myself when I was trying to be more of a fine artist. I mean, I remember just sitting in a parking lot one night, just staring at this wall going, how the
it's fucking crazy, right? Like,
I mean, it's like one of them, the main one in Dallas is in our arts district, and it's like, dude, it's, I don't even know when it was made, but it's been there my entire art career.
Oh, okay.
And it's like this conductor. It's like you see from the perspective down, you can see his hands with the stuff, but it's got this whirlwind of like things.
Yeah.
And it's surreal. It's a very surreal style of art.
Mm-hmm. I've been amazed by those people.
But like, I'm like, dude, how did you project it? Like, how they
make patterns.
The patterns,
paper, like the pounce machine patterns.
Mm-hmm.
My buddy Miguel, he's one of those guys. He works for a company called Art Effects, and he also works for Colossal sometimes, not all the time, but he's been doing it a long time. And yeah, they do the building right there by Staples Center. Mm-hmm. I forgot, it's like an old petroleum building. It's this really old building right next to Staples Center, and they usually paint like a giant Apple Music advertisement or some shit like that. And he took me up there one day to the top of the building and got on that big scaffold and everything. I'm just like, dude, this is gnarly, man. Like being up here painting this scale of a painting, with 4 other guys, like it's intense, dude. And they just bang them out in like 2 days, 2 or 3 days.
It's quite
giant fucking mural of like, portraits and faces and like, it's fucking unbelievable that they can pull that shit off.
An airbrush guy that was I always followed him. I really loved his work. Jason Poultry or something, like he was up in the Oregon area. Mm-hmm. And then since I've been following for the last 15 years, he's almost painted every room for Nike in Oregon, Eugene or wherever that is. And it's just like different stuff and like, documenting, like showing the
cool.
work and the paintbrush, and then sometimes he'll invite some other friends out to help him knock it out. And I'm just like,
that's cool.
Part of me wants to do that, but it's like it's another one of those things like we were saying where I'm like, man, I got so much on my plate that I want to, but I'm like, like I also don't want to half-ass anything, so that's kind of my problem. Mm-hmm. When I try something, I want to try it with like intention or.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Like, I've always wanted a tattoo, but what stopped me is like what you just said. Like, I want to do it, but like I don't want to go in it half-hearted and spread myself out too thin and be
exactly.
like, oh, I'm a tattoo now, and I'm gonna still paint bikes, and I'm gonna have this store and this and that. I'm doing all these things,
Yep, I'm on the back end.
But I feel like at some point, if I'm lucky enough to live long enough to like do all these things, like I would love to put my time and energy into that.
That'd be dope.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
I apprenticed in 2006 for a little while, and I didn't really have the best person to learn from. I just found it that at the time for myself, I wasn't developed enough as an artist, and I was just doing these things that weren't inspiring. Mm-hmm. Infinity symbols and butterflies that flash off the wall, and half the people are drunk because it was a college town that we're trying to capitalize off of. And it just wasn't really the artistic challenge that I was seeing, because at the time I was being inspired by guys like Nico Hurtado and all the other people that were kind of come up in that new age realism of tattooing, which a lot of that, the way I got a Nico Hurtado DVD back in the day to watch, and then I ended up applying that tattoo technique to my airbrush to get more realism in my airbrush techniques.
That's cool.
What I mean? So it's like I was able to kind of use it which
That's
I think
smart.
he used.
Yeah.
He was using a more traditional oil painting techniques. You know what I
Okay.
mean? So
Yeah.
you ever tried oil painting stuff at all?
When I was in high school, I did.
You did?
I went to.
I'm so scared of it.
Yeah, it was fun. Same thing with watercolor. Like those are two things I dabbled with in high school, but I'd never circled back to. But I want to. You know, I'd love to mess around with watercolor again.
I love watching a good time lapse oil painting and watching it kind of build.
It's fucking satisfying.
You know, it is. But then again, I also love a good acrylic, hard line, hard edge, perfect.
Me too. Yeah.
Like almost
Crisp
cartoon-like.
lines, yeah.
Oh, I love that too.
That's why I like using one shot still.
Yeah.
Or the alpha paints are great. And this stuff, like blending the one shot, like it's almost kind of like oil painting. I mean, it's oil-based enamel. So, but you could really, it's really malleable. Like you could blend colors really nice and like get these colors to like the top of the pan head. You know, that's all just blended one shot. You know, you could really
even that fade from the shadows to the light.
all brush. There's no airbrushing. It's just all.
Damn, that's a good fade.
It's all air. I think I use alpha and one shot, like 50-50 pretty much. But yeah, you just blend it while it's wet, you know, like the gray, dark gray. Yeah. Yeah, it is. Dude.
It is coming back.
It is. My buddy, he's in a band called Hollywood Undead.
Oh yeah,
You know them?
Yeah.
He's
awesome.
He's been with them since the beginning. I was just having this conversation with him the other day. I was like, dude, because they've been at it like over 20 years now.
Yeah.
And like, you know, he's just talking about like how I think they're trying to find a new label or a manager. I can't remember what he said. One or the other. But like, yeah, he's like, we gotta take it to the next level and like this and that. So I'm like, yeah, dude, you guys are fucking up there, dude. You've been doing it over 20 years. You're following, you know, your fan base, you know, their kids are gonna fucking get in your shit, you know, if not already, you know. Probably some of his fans in the beginning already have fucking kids that are old enough to listen to that shit. It's crazy to think.
So how did the like the Born Free and the different bike show, you know, more or less show logos come to be? Like how did that transpire?
Yeah, I just posted about that this morning because I feel like I get that question a lot. People think, oh, how much did they pay you to make that or to design the logos? And I'm like, no, nothing really. The story is with that is because I've known Mike and Grant since I was like coming up, you know, like starting off painting bikes and, you know, that whole, I look back out on that time now as like, it was kind of like a new wave, a new movement of like,
it still is.
New biker culture, I guess. I don't know how to label shit like that, but it's just a new wave of a younger generation of bikers like myself, you know, guys like Grant and Mike and the beginning of Dice magazine coming out in 2004, that kind of really set it off, you know. It really just having that magazine, Dice, spoke to all of us who were raised on punk rock and skateboarding and, you know, didn't identify with the big fat tire bikes, the West Coast choppers stuff so much. And, you know, it was a whole era of skinny tires and fucking chopped out bikes and just...
It seemed like an era that was going backwards and doing older techniques of creating stuff. And when more of the West Coast choppers and the modern chopper era was kind of embracing newer technology like CNC machines and things like that to kind of develop. For sure. And I always loved the shit that Jesse was doing. And especially the guys that were like Chopper Dave, dude, that like for me being a young teenage biker, you know, I looked up to like guys like Chopper Dave, like, cause I saw the shit he was doing. I was like,
fuck, dude, he's got that look, dude. He's got it down, you know?
Yeah.
The fucking apes on his pan head. It just like perfect, dude. It just spoke to me, and I'm sure a lot of other people in that age bracket, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, because, I mean, I grew up going to bike shows as a little kid, you know, like 5-year-old, you know, so I saw the evolution of everything, you know, like my dad's generation of bikers to like the 90s up until like the early 2000s and stuff, like billet wheels and all that goofy shit. And then when that wave came, like I was just out of high school, basically. Like when Dice started, I graduated 2003. So I was like 19 or something like that when I first saw that magazine. So that was really exciting to see a little tiny magazine with just like some fucking bare bones, radical looking choppers with guys that looked like me or looked like the people that I hung around with, you know, and just like, oh fuck, yeah, these guys are like punk rock, rockabilly looking and like kind of like that, just totally, you know.
I've been going back and buying as much old ones as I can find. Fortunately, Dice, like you can, whatever they have of stock still, you can, so I've gotten almost everything from like issue 50 to now.
Wow, cool.
But man, those pre
those little
issue
ones?
50s,
those are cool.
It's hard to find them.
I have a few. I never had like, I think the earliest one I have is like issue 4 or something like that. But yeah, I should have scooped some of those up while I had the chance. I just didn't think about it back then.
Yeah, I mean, who would have thought magazines would go away back then? You know?
I know. Yeah, so, I know. It's a rare.
Didn't feel like you were
nowadays.
Collecting it more than it was just the news. It was just a peek inside of a world. You know what I'm saying?
But anyway, back to your question. So yeah, like coming up during that time, you know, it was like a lot of swap meets and like just like random biker parties that were happening, you know, dice parties were a big thing back then. So like those were like the meeting ground for all of us, you know, like every time a dice party would happen in LA, you get all these heads coming together, seeing everybody there, meeting people, like, and that's where I made a lot of friends, you know, and, you know, people I still know today, you know, the early people like that I remember, like Harpoon, you know, Scott Craig, and like those, you know, Chopper Day was around at those parties, Keo, just, it was fun. It was just really fucking just exciting time in general, you know, just being around all these like-minded people. Man, those are like the best times for me. And so when Born Free happened, I couldn't make the first one because of whatever was going on. It's kind of funny to think about, but it was the Psycho Zombies were having their thing that same day.
Forgot about that.
And the Born Free, I don't know if you know the whole story.
I know a little bit.
There was a little bit of conflict between the two groups. So Scotty had asked me to come set up at his thing to pinstripe, you know, at the Hurley. It was at the Hurley compound in Costa Mesa. So I said, I'll be there. You know, I'll pinstripe and come set up. And so I did. And then I remember getting a phone call from the Born Free guys. Hey, you should come to our show and set up. I'm like, what? It's the same day? Like, what the fuck? But yeah, it's funny to look back at that kind of stuff. But anyway, so I missed the first one for that reason. There was just so much going on that day. I think a lot of people were going to both events too, because it was in such close vicinity to each other. So like the cycles, right? It was Costa Mesa, but I think the Born Free was Long Beach. It's not that far, but people were going to both events. So like I was pinstriping at the Psycho Zombie party, and then, you know, a bunch of dudes would come over from the Born Free event towards the end of the Psycho Zombie thing. But the next year though, it was on, like everybody was at the second Born Free. Were you there?
No, I didn't catch it for a long time.
For us, like here, all the people in LA were just, and people were coming in from other areas of the world. It was just fucking popping off, dude.
I heard
like
2 and 3 were the block parties, right?
Yeah. The second one was at what was that shop called in Long Beach? I forgot. I don't know if it's there anymore. It was a shop in Long Beach, an old motorcycle shop. I forget the name of it, but anyway, yeah, I was at the second one because the first Born Free was such a buzz, you know, for everybody. Everybody was talking about it. Like, oh man, were you at the Born Free? Blah blah blah. And I was like, no, I wasn't there. So that's the Psycho Zombie thing. But when they announced that they were gonna do the second one, the second Born Free, like everybody was fucking there. Everybody in our little hub of friends and shit and that were doing cool stuff was there. And that was just fucking like super exciting. And just like, you could feel the energy, you know, just like fucking everybody's stoked, no problems. Like, it was just a good time. They raffled off that bike for the first time, I think, the Panhead that they gave away. But anyway, fast forward, I think it was Born Free 7. It was the first time I did some artwork for Born Free because I had realized, and I was hanging out with Risk a bunch, my friend, and he's like very much like a mentor to me as well. And I used to go to his studio and work and just paint bikes at his place for like 3 years straight. I would go up to Thousand Oaks from LA to Thousand Oaks just to go. And I was in a weird place at that time because I didn't have a physical paint shop or a studio, and I was living in Lincoln Heights over here. So I had no garage, no driveway. So I was painting bikes for another guy at the time. I was doing a bunch of chopper paint work for a guy named Scene, a graffiti artist, and he was a big collector. And so Scene and Risk were friends at that time. And so Scene was like, hey, we're going up to Risk's place. You want to come? I'm like, yeah. And I had been up there once before, but I never actually like got to like hang out there. But I was like, yeah, let's go. And we started going up there to hang out with Risk. And I remember Risk was like, hey, bro, I got some stuff. I need pinstripe and this and that. He's like, you need a place to work. You come work up here. I'm cool. Like, all right, cool. So I started bringing all my paint jobs up there and compressor and spray guns and all that shit. And I was just painting all these bikes up there while painting with him, helping him do stuff. And then
what was he ran with the crew, right? Risk?
Yeah.
What was it?
This MSK. And West Coast artists.
Yeah. I watched that documentary on CBS. That was pretty.
Oh yeah.
That thing was.
I haven't seen that one yet.
It was on like Amazon for a while.
Oh really?
You know, Yaniv was in it talking about it because a lot of them were in that area. There's a couple of stripers, or there's one striper, LG. I love his work, man. Like he's got a really, really good style.
He just,
you know?
I don't know where
I haven't seen him in years.
Yeah, I haven't either.
I met him at my buddy Valley Customs over at his shop over in Chatsworth once, and I was like, dude, like I don't know what he does. I mean, he was posting for a while, and then he doesn't.
Yeah, he's not on the social media anymore. But anyway, so during that time when I was working with Risk a lot, he had a whole like print studio at his compound. So that exposed me to like the possibilities of screen printing, digital printing and stuff like that. So I was like, oh, this is a great fucking idea to like make art and then make prints out of it. So I learned that from him. And so while I was there, I was like, man, I should do something. Like I need to make some shit to sell. Like I didn't have anything tangible like of my own art.
Yeah.
And so I just had this idea, like, oh fuck, I should just hit up Mike and Grant and be like, hey dude, like I want to make a piece of art for your show. I'll make the prints and you guys use the art for your t-shirts and, you know, do whatever you want with it.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the arrangement, the deal. And they were cool with it. And prior to that, I had done stuff for Born Free show, like painted like one of the raffle bikes that they gave away, or two of the raffle bikes. I can't remember. One or two. I think I did it 2 years in a row. I can't remember. The like generator shovel that they raffled off, painted flames on it and stuff like that. So was always involved with the Born Free show in some capacity, whether just being a vendor or painting something for them. And then that was just an idea I had on my own because I saw what the possibilities were being at Risk Studio of printing stuff. So that was like Born Free 7. So that was like 2015, I believe. Made a design and made prints and sold them there. And then the second time around was Born Free 8, and I made the design. You've been there, right? You know, the big banner that's on behind the stage, the wheel, the wing. I made that design. That's hanging up there on the wall. That's the original painting. So that one kind of set it off as far as like people getting really hyped on this shit. I want that print. So.
Yeah, my first Born Free was 17, so 2017, so that would be 9. And I want to say I have I have a Born Free t-shirt with one of your designs on it. It was like a black shirt with like a gold.
It might have been that one, the black frame on the left.
That one, yes, that one over there. And then, like I said, my buddy Corey from Main Drive stopped in last summer and he bought a print of this and gifted it to me.
Okay, cool. So, you got this one.
Yeah,
nice.
So I got a print of that I still need to get it framed, and he's gonna be mad at me for saying that, but like I just haven't had a chance to, like, I got like 3 really nice prints of things I need to get framed, and like I want to do nice frames, and you know, frames are fucking expensive, so I just haven't really.
Yeah, I know.
And it's like
I have a ton of shit.
And I put them and I store them in a very safe space, so I don't see them every day, and it's like out of sight, out of mind.
I'm the same way.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's how it started. It was just like I had the idea of making some tangible stuff to sell.
Yeah.
And I've always loved that show. I like Mike and Grant a lot. They've always been good to me and treating me well.
I still need to spend more time with Grant.
Yeah.
But Mike has been a saint. Like he's really brought me in and helped and exposed a lot of like things to me that I didn't, realize that he's allowed me to kind of help out with things, which, I take, opportunity very seriously. You know what I mean? So,
cool.
With Born Free Texas and stuff.
Like just trying
to put together,
That's great.
Just things like to make the event better, or to make it more going on.
Yeah.
We've been hosting the pre-party for Born Free Texas since it started, and that's been a pretty, ongoing good thing. It's not a cook's corner, but it's good.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've always wanted to go to that. Check it out.
It's
Looks like
more
fun.
of a rally than it is anything. It's,
totally different vibe.
It's like you just come park your bike. Hopefully you have a camper or a tent, and just stay all weekend and have a good time.
Nice.
So with the getting into the studio space like this, was the intention always to teach and like kind of get into that space, or what?
Kind of, yeah. It was always the intention. I've always been open with sharing, like my, what I do and my techniques and shit like that. There's no secrets really to this shit. It's all been done before, and I've always had people learn from me or apprentice with me, and some of them, take it and they run with it, or some don't. But either way, when I had the motorcycle shop with my dad, I was a little bit more open about having people come work with me and just learn. But moving out of there and going more, just like kind of do more freelance, like sign paint stuff here and there. And it's kind of hard because I don't have like a set schedule, even still now. Like I'm not here all the time, but like when I am here, it's like late at night or like early in the morning. So it's kind of hard to like have an apprentice nowadays. But yeah, I've always been keen on like sharing shit, and teaching people and showing people how to do things, answering questions. People message me all the time, asking me stuff like, hey, what do I do about this, gilding stuff that's not drying or whatever. You know what I mean? Like I'm always willing to help people. So yeah, that was always the intention when we opened this place, to teach classes, and it's been cool. It's been fun. It's nice to have like a little sense of community here, because I feel like there's not much of that around this area, or I don't know. close by. But anyway, yeah. I think
so what's the class kind of consist of? Do you have different versions of it, or is it more of a basics or intro kind of thing?
We have like a very basic intro class that we try to push people towards that don't have any experience, and we have like a script lettering class, which kind of is a little more advanced, and then there's like, there's another one that's called casual lettering. It's a very common sign paint look to it, style of lettering. That one is a little bit easier for people to start with, and then I have like a couple of pinstripe classes that I teach. One is kind of like a beginner where I show people how to like draw a flame and like fill it in and then outline it and just kind of really get familiar with, doing curves on flames is like that's very fundamental, doing those curves and stuff like that. So I have like an intermediate one that I'm actually teaching tomorrow. It's an intermediate pinstripe class where it's more like the Von Dutch type, symmetrical type stuff. So it's a little more advanced. But I have yet to do a gold leaf class. I'm working on that, developing a gold leafing class. And we have like a sign paint workshop that we're trying to do. That's more of like multiple days, spread out over 4 weeks. So people can really dive into it and like.
It might be hard to do over 4 weeks, but if you had something that was like a multiple day close to each other, that would be.
Yeah.
I would come out for that because I understand the value of being like seeing and being able to, having like practicing something for so long and you run into your own snags that you come to the table or with a teacher and you ask the right questions or you're looking for the right answers.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I am with some, especially when it comes to using things like the alpha enamel or the one shot or different types of brushes, like, just to kind of know where and all those kind of things. So
yeah. There's so many little tricks, it's very nuanced with the brushes, especially like little twist motion, like the most like smallest little twist motion with your thumb and your finger, makes the biggest difference in a stroke, pulling up and stuff like that. So it's a slow learning curve too. It's like you can't grasp all this shit in just one class. So that's why we thought like the workshop thing, 4 days would be, ideal. So we're learning as we go. I'm not like an expert, master class teacher, but I know what I'm talking about, but I'm trying to figure out what's the best formula for these people to like learn it and then want to come back, and absorb it. But it's been fun. It's been cool. Kind of offsets, when we have slow days here, it's okay because we could, kind of make up with the classes and stuff like that. So,
No, I see that, man. That's really cool. I took a lettering class once, and I got to keep all my like transparent to trace. And, like we would have like a printout with like A, B, C, D, E, lowercase, and the transparents, and you would use the transparents and practice on top, and then of course you could wipe it off. But I really just need to crack open the cans that I have and start playing with it more, and just. You know how it is when you're like, you go into someone's like that's learning how to stripe or that have taught themselves like everything striped in the shop. It's like every
windows,
corner.
Doors, and stuff.
You stripe on your compressor and.
That's the key to learning this stuff is just fucking do it and just build an environment. Like that's why people that do really get into it, they stripe everything around them because you're kind of creating an environment for yourself to feel comfortable to just let it go and just do it,
On the back fence in the back, there's a lot of that newer, more black letter style typography that people are doing. Have you saw an angle for that in like the traditional sign painting ways of? Because it seems satisfying to watch.
The calligraphy stuff?
Yeah, the calligraphy and kind of black letter look.
It's all relative. Like the motions of, the angling your chisel and like pulling it and twisting it and getting thick to thin. It's all the same relative motions you would do with a lettering quill. So But yeah, I think I don't know. I think it's becoming. I don't know if it's becoming a trend necessarily, but it definitely more with like graffiti guys that are really into like gothic letters and like chisel tip, you know.
I mean, it seems
brushes and stuff like that.
I mean, I watched like a couple people do it, and then my algorithm was just blown away with it. But I can't remember their names.
I don't know if it's a trend or if it seems like it's a trend because we see so much information now on our phones. You can see what's going on around the whole fucking world. But like for me, I feel like I've always seen dudes like doing, you know, Chaz Borges is like the godfather of that shit. But like I've seen like Retina for years and years, and like what's the other guy? Big Sleeps, and like there's a ton of people. Cryptic is another one. That guy's amazing. But there's a lot of dudes that I've been following, watching for a long time that have been doing it. But yeah, there's globally though. Yeah, there's a ton of people like that are just fucking killing it.
It's pretty wild when you see someone like just tag like a huge wall and it's got that kind of round or circular pattern to it, and it's like a layer system.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's got a vibe. You know what I mean? For sure.
The guy that did our wall, his name's Peter Greco. He did that piece right there on the wall. Yeah. He's an old timer. He's about as old as Chaz. They know each other. Like, like Chaz comes here, pays a visit. One time Peter was back there painting and Chaz came by. I was like, "You fucking know this guy?" He's like, "Yeah, I've known him since blah blah blah." I'm like, "Oh fuck, I didn't know you guys knew each other." That's cool.
Hell yeah.
But Peter is amazing, dude. He's a really good lettering artist in general. Like he could do pretty much anything I do, you know, like very sign painter look or nice, beautiful script letters. He's got a really good eye. And he's an older gentleman. He's probably like in his 70s, maybe. I don't know how old he is, but he's been doing it a while. Yeah, he's up there. He still paints. Yeah, he's a really nice guy. Peter Greco. He's on Instagram. Peter Greco. I'll show it to you later.
Nice. What have you know, like when you take like a painting like this and you screen print it, is there any digitizing process in that, or how is that? I mean, are you kind of learning how to do that shit yourself, or what?
Yeah. So like if I need to separate colors to make like multiple screens, I'm not good at vectoring, but Nicole, my partner, is. Oh, nice. And anything I can't do, she does really well. Like she's a fucking a wizard with Photoshop, Illustrator. So, and that's why we work so hand in hand. We do well together in that realm. But I have been exploring a lot with Procreate in the last 3 years, maybe around about 3 years. That's kind of really opened the doors for a lot of different things for me for client work, like in the respect of like time and like just like getting shit done quicker and like, here, check this out. This is a sketch I made. You know, they can approve it or give it back to me and be like, oh, can you change this, change that? So that speeds up the process a lot and helps me to like figure out layouts too, like to like design like this bourbon whiskey label. I sketch to the design in Procreate, and then from that phase I'll take it, print it out to scale, make a pattern out of it like the traditional sign paint way, make a pounce pattern, and then transfer it to the panel and then start painting it. But yeah, it's been a really cool tool to have, you know. It's so convenient to like carry around with you. Like I could take it when I'm out of town and still work and you know, sketch at night, you know, sit at my dining table. I haven't messed with Procreate
much. I use the Adobe version of it, which was I think it's just called Adobe Fresco now. It used to be called Adobe Draw. But I work in vectors for like I have a vinyl cutter, so I just learned how to use a vinyl cutter very early on. So that's how I get my lettering on things. I still paint it, but I use a sketch, if you will.
That makes sense.
And so a lot of the logos I would design will start off on paper, scan it in, kind of trace it out, and do that. And the using the vector version of that fresco is how I'll take a picture of the side of a bike or a helmet.
Yeah.
And I'll sketch it all out.
Yeah.
Kind of loosely, and then I use it as templates to like sketch paint jobs on.
Mm-hmm.
And I've even sold them to people. At first, I just give them like here's the sketch, and then like everybody nervous. $20, I'll send you one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
cool. Yeah.
I'd like to learn, get into it more for. Like I want to make, like work on my T-shirt designs more because that's something I've been wanting to do with my brand is have more, like shirt designs. But
sure, yeah.
I love logos and I love typography. But I feel like in the culture that I'm kind of in motorcycling, they want a lot of the pictorials with the words and that old, Boris Vallejo kind of thing or, something like that, So I don't know. I'm kind of torn. I'm overthinking it too, but, it is what it is.
Yeah, it's fun, man. If you have the chance to try it or get an iPad Pro and download it, it's super... For me, like my brain does not work in that way of like vectoring and stuff like that with Illustrator. I can do a little bit of it, but my brain just doesn't work that way.
The Photoshop and Illustrator stuff, it's very complicated when like to use as a pencil.
Yeah, the Wacom pad. But the Procreate, it's very user friendly. It's like I could totally navigate it now. Like it's second nature to me now.
Yeah.
And man, there's so many like cool brands or companies now that make cool textures too, like the brush textures and stuff like that. The paper templates. It's just like
I see that little scanner people buy. They go scan like something in the wild, and then they'll kind of do some separation in it and make like a brush out of it.
Dude, it's so cool what these people are doing with these brushes and templates and stuff. It's so cool. But yeah, I love that it's become more of my, almost like my routine now is like designing on there. It's really cool. It's helped a lot to speed things up. But it is nice to like have the balance though, like because I have been working with designing and sketching art for my layouts and stuff like that with Procreate, that sign painting workshop.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm gonna do this one just paper only. Like the sketch concept on paper, make the pattern out of it from the paper, apply it to the canvas, and then paint it. Like I didn't want to fuck with the Procreate for that one, especially because like I'm trying to sell like what this workshop is, like like a sign paint workshop. Like
I saw that you made it. You had just posted that reel here pretty recently, right?
Yeah, just last week. But like, I don't want to be like designing something in Procreate and trying to be like, this is a workshop I'm offering. But I did this in Procreate. It just seemed like kind of
the opposite.
The opposite of what I'm trying to do.
No, that's rad.
But yeah, it is fun to like keep that balance, or it's important, I should say, to mess with pencils and paper still.
I mean, pencil and paper, like I still have a hard time taking like sketching out ideas onto Procreate because I like the resistance. And I like I don't know, I've been using this word too much today, so the only way I can describe it, it just has a little bit more of a soul to it. Like and whenever it just feels different. It might not,
Yeah. It's so satisfying doing that. Yeah. Like just fucking with the pencil again. Oh man. Like just the feel of the pencil,
the paper,
the resistance, the drag. Just like, it felt great. And it looks cool just hanging up, just having the sketch on the wall. Like it's, what are you gonna do? You can't.
Yeah.
I mean, you could print it out from the iPad. It's just not the same.
Yeah, it's not really.
And it's fun to like, I have some of my sketches. I have a lot of my old drawings at home in the flat file. But like whenever I do have to look in there for something, I'm like, I kind of go down memory lane, looking at all these physical paper sketches. I'm like, oh man, this is cool. This is kind of cool to look through the archives of old sketches from years ago.
It's kind of like the concept of like photography. If it's all in files versus if you ever just pull out the photos and relive it,
Yeah. It's a different feeling, man. You know? Yeah, like you said, it does have soul. It's like a real human.
This thing exists in real life. It can't be erased the way that,
Yeah, it's real human evidence that something was handmade. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think when the time's right, I feel like I should, try to practice the pencil paper more often, and just maybe just the client stuff, keep it digital. Just like, hey, here you go.
I have a notebook that I use that I'll just like go through waves where I'll just sit there and I'll just sketch like lots of little bitty little things on it. And then, cool. I like that. And then I'll come back and try to do a better one and a better thing. And this book it's not supposed to be finished products. It's just supposed to be ideas.
Yeah.
And then you flip through it and you're like, fuck, I kind of want to revisit this little sketch right here. See if I can refine it with a fresh set of eyes,
Yeah.
I've designed all the logos that I've used. Not that, not to brag about them or anything. It's just that like it's something I hold important to me that my logo kind of changes every so many years to kind of evolve with who I feel like or how I feel like it should look in that time frame.
Yeah.
Like a lot of big brands, they might only really change their logo every 5 to 10 years or maybe even longer.
Maybe longer, yeah.
Like
Target or Coca-Cola.
Yeah, they're like it just might be Pepsi. A hair different, But to me, some lettering, some styles can be more dated to eras, and then sometimes it works for like if your brand is like selling or about that era. Like say if you're a mid-century modern kind of home seller, then you probably want some little starbursts here and there, and more of a
those colors,
more retro colors, and in the custom paint world, like as we just deal with colors and how they palette with each other so much. They want that Miami Vice thing or the
that's the power of lettering too, that I've always kind of known. Like it's like, man, it could be applied. It has so many different outlets for it, like you could do graphic designs, t-shirt graphics, logos, painting people's windows and stuff like that. It's just like, for me, it's the possibilities are pretty much endless, and I really, being able to do that kind of stuff made me really realize I wanted to do that shit more and more for myself. Like you were just saying, like you redesign your logo, brand your own stuff. That's cool, and not a lot of people can do that, for themselves. Yeah. So, I started seeing the value in that. Like one of the first times I got hit up by Vans to like just make some t-shirt graphics for them, like that made me realize like, oh man, I should be doing this shit for myself. You know what I mean? Like lettering some cool stuff. And that's when like that SonnyBoy logo that I have, the S with the little swoop that connects to the Y. Yeah, that one. Like that was my way of signing on my motorcycle paint jobs. And for a long time, the S never connected to the Y. It was just like a swoop, but it just ended. It didn't connect to the Y fully. And then, it just kind of clicked in my head one day, like, oh, I should just connect it all the way to the Y. But like around that time, I was doing those graphics for like Vans and Quicksilver and stuff like that. I was like, dude, I gotta make my own t-shirts. And like my partner Nicole was like, yeah, you gotta do some SonnyBoy shirts and stuff. Especially like going to like events like Born Free, you want to have something to sell or you just even give away, be like, hey, here's a shirt I made. So that pushed me to like, okay, I'm gonna sit here and draw that, and she vectored it for me, and like we put it on some shirts, and it became a thing. And I feel like when I was in the early days of having that motorcycle shop with my dad, like I always wanted some kind of clothing brand. I just didn't know what it was gonna be. I thought, oh, maybe the motorcycle shop that it was, we'd have our own t-shirts, and which we did at some point. We had our own shirts and stuff like that, but I wasn't really going by or like pushing my name as SonnyBoy back in those days until I left that place. But I think like, man, for a while, I don't know, like the last 15 or so years now, like we talk about it like all the time. Like we got to make this SonnyBoy like a real thing, like a real fucking brand, you know, and just, you know, having the brick and mortar here with the storefront, that we have people coming in here all the time that buy the shirts that we have that say SonnyBoy, or the hats that have the SonnyBoy logo.
Yeah.
And they just buy it just because they like the name, or they relate to it in their own way of like, oh, I named my kid Sonny, or my dad was SonnyBoy, or we hear these stories all the time. And people just, or they just ask, like, what is this SonnyBoy stuff about? I'm like, if I'm not here, you know, one of the employees will explain it. You'd be like, oh, it's one of the co-owners, you know, he's an artist and this is his brand and this and that. He used to paint motorcycles and sign paint and this and that. So they just kind of like, oh, this is cool. Like, I like it. And they just buy
the
it.
quality seems like you have like a really nice, like it's not just like a beanie you slapped it on, you know, like it seems like some higher quality stuff.
Man, the biggest obstacle always, like with anybody, is the money. Like finding the time and the money to like make shit, you know, when you're just doing it very grassroots, you know, like, and that's how we have been doing the SonnyBoy brand so far. So I think, you know, every year I have this, or we have this conversation like, all right, this is the year we're gonna like, you know, try to do something with it. Like, but you know, it just takes time and money. So we're just trying to like figure out that way of like, you know, elevating it and just, you know, putting more effort into it every year. And, you know, those things, you know, you got to really be on it. You got to really put the time into it. It's a
full-time job on its own.
It's a full-time thing. And it's really hard for, you know, clothing brands to take off. And yeah, you got to have the money for sure.
That's kind of where I'm at with my brand, is that I have this vision of it being something like a clothing brand, but the things that I want to do with it, I don't really have access to I don't know where to start to get what I want. I don't want to just have a bunch of screen printed tees. I want the kind of clothing that I like, or that, you know, which I know it seems weird because it seems like if you were going to start a successful clothing brand, you would just kind of go with what's trending. But like, I like sweatshirts.
Yeah.
And I also like minimal branding. You know, and I feel like I'd rather have a really nice, high quality sweatshirt with just a nice little, almost like a polo sign.
Yeah, little
kind of logo,
embroidered,
just let you know,
little logo.
You know, and I'm like, in the world, it's like, okay, that's $80 sweatshirt, and everybody's like, what the fuck? And I was like, oh,
yeah,
that's kind of. I mean, to me, I like stuff like that. You know what I mean? And
for me, what always inspired me when I was like thinking about more of the SonnyBoy becoming a clothing brand is like, I've always loved how Moon Eyes, all their shirts are hand painted graphics, you know?
I didn't know that.
Yeah. You see any Moon Eyes t-shirts? Like you could tell, like they have the pinstripe and it's like the lettering is all very hot rod looking. It's done by their in-house artist. His name's Wildman. He's a like legit pinstripe sign painter. And he's got a long history doing that stuff. But he's been with Moon Eyes for a really long time. Anyway, like him though, like a lot of the other Japanese artists kind of practice the same way. Like they'll hand paint a graphic on like a 16 by 20 panel, you know, and they, you know, whatever the process, like take a photo of it, scan it or whatever, and then digitize it, make a screen out of it and print it on shirts. And I've always loved that method, that approach to making t-shirt graphics is like hand painting it. Like the SonnyBoy stuff, like all the graphics that we have done so far, we don't have like a ton of them, but like the signature logo, the one that looks like it says SonnyBoy and the boy is in the flag part of it, like that's the original paintings are here, you know? So that's the whole, my approach like to having the brand is like, I want the majority of all the graphics to be like hand painted graphics and then, printed onto the garment. And that's why that's what Vans hired me for. And that's what Quicksilver, when they approached me like, hey, we love your sign paint stuff. Like, can you make some graphics in that same kind of hand style? And so, that makes sense. And seeing like Moon Eyes for the longest time, they've been doing this shit. Yeah. Like, if you look at some of their graphics, they're just like, you could tell it's like handmade graphics. You can see the little minor flaws in like, the pinstripe stuff. And I don't know. It's just, it has a look to it. So I love that. And I've always wanted to apply that method to what I want to do and, build it that way. But yeah, I do see a future in that. And I think that's my next, I shouldn't say my next, but it's always, I feel like I've been building it slowly, organically over the last 15 years or so. Yeah. The SonnyBoy brand. And I think I'm at that turning point now where I gotta okay, let's scale this up a little and somehow get some kind of investor and I don't know,
see where you can
do what I gotta do to make it into something, that's sustainable and see where it goes.
I kind of like the idea of, my wife, I was telling you earlier, my wife and I, we've been kind of thinking of this barbershop / studio / boutique thing for a long time. And I kind of like the idea of it being, whether it's called Fast Life or something else that we come up with, and the clothing of it becomes this thing that's local. That becomes you're at the local, Buffalo Wild Wings or wherever the hell it is. So I live in a small town in Texas, so it's nice. You see it there, and it's it feels dope that it's part of that community before it goes, cool. And right now, when I do T-shirts, and it's gonna change soon, but if you have a T-shirt for me, most likely you got it from me. I handed it to you. Yeah. As opposed to, we've only maybe, I have for our supporters for this show, we have a Patreon thing, right? And so when I did this run of shirts, we did it all we were at the event. This is our Born Free Texas shirt. So you bought it there, and whatever's left over, we let the Patreon guys that didn't come out get a chance at it, and then we kind of leaked a few of them out to people through our Instagram.
That's cool.
But obviously, an online store, you're going to sell more products, you're going to make more money. But my friends in these spaces say that I have an artist curse, where everything to me has to be intentional, or it has to have purpose, or it's almost whatever, sometimes somebody does it this way, I have to not do it that way. I have no idea why. It's just I don't know. It's I
think it's just the way our brains work.
Yeah. I'm a very sentimental person too. I keep things, I'm not a hoarder by any means, but gifts or things that signify some experience. I keep stuff like that, I have a lot of shirts from events or shows or individuals that I've never worn. They're just in a drawer.
Yeah. I keep all my shirts in a bin. If I don't wear them, or if I've worn them for a little while, put them away. I don't just give them to the Goodwill or donate them or whatever. I'm very selective on certain shirts that I keep, and this is a memory, dude. Born Free or Swap Meet from 2010 or some shit like that. Those are cool. Those are cool to have. But I'm the same way. I want to do shit with integrity, I don't just crank out, whether it's a little small painted piece of art to sell, or a print or a T-shirt for that matter. I want it to have some integrity, some kind of meaning, or just a handmade look to it, you know, not just something I scribbled in Procreate or had, Nicole design completely vectored, from, not to say anything's wrong with vector, that's just part of the process, but just completely digitally made only, I don't want to get into that,
Integrity's a good way to describe it.
I'm gonna do it. I want it to have some kind of meaning in the sense of I'm an artist. I have sign painter, pinstriper skills, and I'm bringing this to a garment, a t-shirt, a hat, a sticker, and that's what you're buying. You know, you're buying a piece of what I made, you know? So, yeah.
No, that's good, man. Well, I think we did a good one, dude. 2 hours.
Cool.
So, I mean,
you usually go about 2 hours?
Yeah, on these trips right here, I try to keep them about 2 hours. That way they're...
You got to go and edit.
Yeah, just like cut out some little spots here and there and clean it up. But no, like, do you have like a website people can check out, or do you mainly go through your Instagram?
I don't. I have a SonnyBoy one, but I think it's not open right now because we haven't made anything new lately as far as like t-shirts and stuff like that. So when that happens, we kind of just close it. It's been a rough year. Like this year, as far as like in LA, I don't know what it's like for you guys where you are, but here in LA, it's just coming out of COVID. Oh, dude, like it was already kind of rocky, you know, having this place, going through COVID, and then the strikes that ensued after that with the movies, the writer strike, the actor strikes. Man, that just like kind of fucked everything up. And then we haven't quite recovered from that. And then like the beginning of this year, we had all the fucking fires, and that just like
you had it close. You're pretty close to the Pasadena one, right?
Yeah, Altadena's not far from here. So it's been a rough. This year hasn't gone any way that I thought it was gonna go. Like in terms of this business and like making products and stuff like that. So like we just kind of been running very, very slim, very nimble with like making stuff, buying merchandise for the store. It's like fucking ghost town here right now, dude. Like it's weird. It's a weird time for sure. LA's definitely going through like its own recession in its own way. Yeah. And like I hate to talk about political shit or even try to talk about it because I don't like talking about shit I don't know anything. Like I'm not an expert on things, but the tariffs, whether or not they are a real thing or if you believe in it or whatever, what you know this guy's saying in office, but it is trickle affecting everything down the line for us, you know, with the small businesses. So yeah, we're definitely feeling that as well. So so I say all that to say it's like the website's down right now because honestly, like by this time in the year, I'm amping up for Born Free and like making t-shirts and prints and like, but I'm not in that mode right now.
Born Free's only 40 days away.
That's what I mean. Like usually right now I'm like, I got some t-shirts made, some hats and stickers. I'm prepping and I'm just kind of like, I'm just gonna bring what I got, you know? But yeah, it's been a rough year so far.
Well, I guess people can, you know, reach out to you through your social media.
But the social media is fine. The Nicson Design Studio is good. Actually, maybe just point towards that. That's kind of like, we're trying to build a Nicson Design Studio as like the umbrella to everything that we're doing as far as the store, the studio, and SonnyBoy. Yeah. We're trying to make that like our umbrella website because through that site is where we try to attract like the bigger client stuff for the whole like branding, logo design stuff that Nicole and I work on together. Yeah. So if you look at that website, you'll see like sign paint stuff that we've done for galleries and theaters and stuff like that. And that's where our bookings are for our the classes that we do here. It's on that website as well. So
the SonnyBoy is more of like a personal thing.
The SonnyBoy was you know, was like our website to sell shirts, prints, stickers, and shit like that. That's what it was for. But there's not much going on right now. There's no activity on there.
Oh, it's all good. Well, hey, I appreciate this, man. It was an honor to come
thank you.
Hang and meet. So
should I take this off?
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, man. First podcast.
Good times.